I've got some thoughts about EDC and where it is, how it got here, and I just want to talk about it. Welcome to Haku EDC. This is Saturday Conversation, and today I'm going to start the conversation with a few thoughts. I'm trying to figure out here what makes something better than something else within the EDC community. What's driving people in a certain way? I've been reading and looking at the comments around the Leatherman Arc Obsidian and how there's both some negative things about it and some positive, more negative than positive. It seems like the people who are the most negative, at least on YouTube, are the ones that are buying it, which I don't understand. I think that they want to get it, talk about it, and be clear about what they're talking about. I understand that particular piece. But there seems to be a lot of almost disgust around it. I also see a lot of people on YouTube, other creators, other YouTubers that seem to be, like I've been in the past, sort of obsessed with this multi-tool system. I've been pretty lucky in the sense that I've gotten a bunch of larger multi-tools. I've used them all. I've used a bunch of them. But now, as I look back at that, I look back and I say, for the most part, I never used them to their full extent because I didn't need to. I had other things that I can use. I'll give you an example. I had, and I actually still have a Leatherman PST, and I've had the original Surge, which I've sold, and this Surge here, which is Surge Generation 2. I also have this Surge clone, this Byberry Surge clone. But it seems like I've been the most happiest in the past few years, at least, when I've carried just Swiss Army knife and something like this Knipex or this Hasset with a Swiss Army knife. When I've had those, I've actually done what I think is a lot more work, a lot more being helpful to people. Now, I'm still myself, and I see others being drawn to these larger, heavier, more fixated on that with a knife. Then I see people moving toward this, which is both lighter, cheaper, and in some ways more functional than this is. I'm probably not talking to people who are in the trades. They're the ones that are going to be needing something for some quick work, and so they don't have to bring in their heavier tools to do it with. I can see where this Leatherman or this Byberry would come into play. So I'm not talking about that people who actually use these things every day. I just know a lot of people who carry these, who use them once a month, once a week, but they like to say that they are prepared for when they do need to use them. And I think that I thought about that for quite a long time. I used to carry a Leatherman Surge for a long time, and that was mostly because I was either driving or biking to work, and I didn't have to carry it on my side. I could just pull it out when I needed it. I worked in an office, so I wasn't doing trades work per se. I was occasionally doing work that was very helpful to people. I can remember times when I fixed doors or doorknobs. I remember a time when we moved into a new office and a whole bunch of people's desks weren't adjusted, and I just pulled out my Leatherman Surge 1, because this is, I think, 2001 or 2002, or maybe it was even the PST. I pulled it out and I started just helping people put together their desks, adjusting their chairs. Just spent the whole day just doing that for people. They were very grateful. They enjoyed my company because I was making jokes at that point in time too with it about, hey, how come our janitorial staff wasn't doing this? Well, it basically wasn't their job. And nowadays, I'm thinking more about, I don't need this stuff. My life has changed quite a bit. I'm working from home more. But when I go out, I still need some. I need something. So not even this. I tend to gravitate to this. This is Filmmaster. And I've had this for, 30 plus years. And I've had this Farmer X for a couple years. And it's more than enough. I got screwdrivers on it. I got knives on it. I got scissors on it. When I need to pull some or pliers, I use this Hasset or I use this Knipex, and it works fine. My point is that a lot of this is like buying a car. There are some people who want to have who look at their life and then they want to have the best possible. They want something that's both shiny and functional. When they do that, they will end up something like this, but probably with a better knife than this one. But they'll end up with something like the Leatherman Surge and they will carry it around. Then there are people who don't quite have the money, but they want to be aspirational and they want to still be able to do everything that this group is doing. So some of them will just get this. So this is your Polestar, your Lexus, and this is your Chevy, your Toyota cars. So that's what that is. So these things work perfectly well. They will satisfy you, and they may outlast this. They probably won't, but they may outlast that. Then there are people who are more what I call utilitarian. They're the Subaru drivers that are out there. They're the Toyota RAV4 drivers. They're going to have something that's going to last a long time. They're going to use it. It is going to be functional for their needs. It's not going to be anything way out of the way. And so they're going to have something similar to this. It'll work for them. It'll work well. It's way less hassle. It's way less money. It's way less intensity than something like this. If you don't think that this is less intense than this, go to an office building or go to a coffee shop and pull this out, put it on a table, and then people are gonna look at you like, oh, you're a fantastic guy, or what's happening? Like, you're strange. So look at, but if you pull out something or like this, they're just gonna say, what's that stuff? Like they're gonna be more inquisitive and then turn away and then let you be. So that's just random thoughts about why people may want to choose one of these four sort of quadrants of things. I've moved through all these quadrants at some point. The quadrants are where I'm at. I'm more below the line than I'm above the line in my thinking of what I want to carry. I want something that's a little older, a little less expensive, but works well. And so I tend to be in this direction. So I would tend to carry something like this a lot more now than I will carry this. In fact, as you've heard from me in a previous time point, I don't carry a knife anymore. I just don't. I carry knives in my multi-tools. I don't carry single-bladed knives. And I really haven't done that for a couple years. I've got a number of them. I just don't carry them. Now, I'm going to go to part 2 of this after I've sort of struggled through all this, but give me feedback on what you're thinking about what I said about this. Are people sort of in one of these quadrants? Are people moving through these quadrants? Are people sort of staying there? And yes, I could have put fastback here for one of those. In fact, I'll just do that just to show you that I have that possibility. Here's the fastback with the Knipex, which is fairly popular in a lot of people's thinking. I just haven't seen anyone carry them around. And I'm sure that there are people that do carry them around. If you're one of them, let me know if you carry it around, how often you use it, what happens, what are the situations that you find yourself in where you can't use this, and then what do you do? The same for the other ones. Are there situations where you can't use something, and then what do you do?
This is part 2. This is a Sac Ranger, and this is a Buck 112. In the 1970s, late 70s, early 80s, I got these both in 1980 or 81. This is what we had. This is what we use. This was the state of the art. You can tell how old this is. It's just crazy old. As I'm thinking about it, one of the ways to tell how old this thing is just look at the scissors here. And if you look at the scissors, you'll notice that if you can make it out, it's got a screw in it. So that's one way of telling it. Let's see here if we can get that in there. If you can see that, the little stamp that's in there and the one on this side here, so that you can tell that these are fairly old knives. This is a Buck 112. It's well used. Hasn't been sharpened in at least 2-3 years because I haven't brought it out. I haven't used it. I don't have any intention to use it in the future. But it's still a knife that could be usable. So that's what we would take out. We would use it. We found good measure with it. Never had any problems with it. We could do everything from help us to cut rope, branches to start fires. We were out 14 to 28 days away from civilization, and we were leaders, and so we were leading groups of 8 to 12 people. myself and also another person generally. And so we had to depend on what we had. And these things worked really well. This was in the 1980s. Nowadays, I see people talking about using this Leatherman, the Signal. Now, it's not a bad thing. It's got some real advantages on both of those. One, locking blades that you can open with one hand. The knives are probably better. I don't think that this saw is better than the saw on this Swiss Army knife, but it is a nice saw. It's probably, you can make an argument that it is comparable. If you use this correctly, this can make a really good hammer. Do that with it. Do not do this. I see a lot of people doing this with it. That's how you lose part of your meat on your finger. You're supposed to do it like this until it's down to the nubbins, and then you hit it hard. It is one of these things where it does lock. You can lock it down so it doesn't open unless you want it to open. These here, you have to force them open and force them close. That's always kind of the weird thing here. This locking system is really nice. I really like it, actually, on the Leatherman Signal. And it's got really nice pliers. And people do use pliers in the wilderness. One of the things that I use them for is when I need to tighten up my tent, strings, when I need to pull something down that's in a tree. I like to throw a rope in the tree and then use this to help pull it down and then cut with another implement. And something like this works really well for this. Occasionally, these things, I do have a bit kit. The bits do come in handy nowadays because there's so many things that you take out in like the wilderness, which are mechanical in nature that we didn't really take out before. The only thing that was mechanical was we would have these backpacks that had external shells on them, and then we would have to fix those. Nowadays, all these backpacks are pretty much all internally driven, and they're all made with different materials that make things really easy and good and light. When I was at a meeting with a bunch of people, we were at a reunion of leaders that people lead on the outdoor field. There was one person who had this. He must have been like a 28, I think he said he was 28 years old. And I was talking to other people who were in the 25 to 50 age range who are actually still doing leadership things. And I asked them, do they use a Leatherman Signal? Because I said, I've got one at home. I'm taking it out. I haven't found it that fascinating. They said, no, they don't. They do use other multi-tools, but they don't think that the Leatherman Signal is actually complete enough to be in the hand of a leader who is leading 8 to 12 people out from anywhere from 17 to 30 days in the wilderness. And that made me really think about that. And it made me start to think about just these things in general. Now, are there tools that they use? Yeah, they have Leatherman surges. They have other Leathermans that they take out that they like. They just don't use a Signal. So my question is, Signal, who's buying the Signal and how are they using it? Now, are you a Signal user? Are you taking it out often? Is it your everyday carry, or is it your camping carry, or is it your hunting carry? Let me know in the comments. I've droned on. That's my comments for this Saturday. I promise that next Saturday is going to be a lot more exciting. I've got some interesting things that I want to put together. So please subscribe. This is Haku EDC, and I'll see you in the future.
This is Haku Daily. Sunrise paints the roads. Eagle soars on timeless winds. Earth beats in my heart. This is the Haku Dude. See you in the future.